How close we are to potential World War III.
Way too close.
How could this end up in World War III?
Is World War III on the horizon, or are we entering into what the Bible speaks of regarding the Great Tribulation? Because of all that's going on in Ukraine, Israel, Iran, and Russia, people are saying that we're on the cusp of a World War III, or that we are entering into the Great Tribulation. And in this video, I'm going to show you that the Great Tribulation was already fulfilled in the first century. And so for my first point, we're going to go here and demonstrate that Jesus says that the Great Tribulation will be fulfilled in his generation. And we see Matthew 24, verse 21, "For then there will be great tribulation such as not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will." Now, if you just keep reading from verse 21 all the way to verse 34, Jesus tells us that those things will take place in his generation. And I quote, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place." And so the you there that he was speaking to were the apostles, and the generation, according to Psalm 95, verse 10, is 40 years. And he says that that generation will not pass away until all these things take place, which would include the Great Tribulation. In other words, the Great Tribulation would be fulfilled in his generation. And the Great Tribulation that Jesus was speaking of was the tribulation against apostate Israel for the rejection of the Son of God and the blood of the martyrs, according to Matthew 23. And he mentions it here in the Gospel of St. Luke in chapter 21, when Jerusalem, not the whole world, but Jerusalem will be surrounded by her armies, which were the Roman armies, and her desolation would be near. And in verse 22, it says that those would be the days of vengeance to fulfill all that has been written. In other words, fulfill all prophecy. Now, that tribulation began in 66 AD and ended in 70 AD when the temple fell, but the Romans besieged Jerusalem in 66 AD, and it lasted 42 months or 3.5 years. Now, this is what Josephus, an eyewitness testimony, has to say concerning the matter. "Whereas the war which the Jews made with the Romans hath been the greatest of all these, not only that have been in our times, but in a manner of those that were ever heard of." Now, for my final proof text demonstrating that the Great Tribulation had already taken place in the first century, this is what John said: "I, John, your brother and fellow partaker in the tribulation." So this is a message to all those that continue to promulgate this notion that we are on the cusp of the Great Tribulation in our future, when in reality, the Bible makes it explicitly clear that the Great Tribulation was to take place in that generation. God bless.